April 19th, 1995. 168 people die in Oklahoma City. The government blames Timothy McVeigh, but buried in the rubble is another story. One about a wealthy debutante, a swastika tattoo, and warnings that came too late.
Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, you have the shortest opening monologues of all time. Every time I'm editing, I'm putting in timestamps as I do stuff, and it's always like 18 seconds.
I know, I'm like less words, which is surprising considering how much I talk.
Surprising.
But
you are now entering the realm of the freaky deaky. An unsuspecting stop at the crossroads of fantasy and reality, where the frayed edges of make-believe seep into this cookie-cutter white picket world you've been led to believe is far from extraordinary. What you're about to hear are true stories.
alleged true stories.
Christian, just... okay? Tales of the strange and inexplicable thought only to exist in film and folklore. Although difficult to accept, we do not know everything about this reality. About time or space, what lies beneath the ocean's depths. And try though we might, the unchanging truth remains. There are some things we legitimately cannot explain logically.
Folks, welcome back to the show. My name's Scott, and I'm joined, as always, by your host for the evening, Christian.
A black.
Okay. So much more than just a black Christian. You are my father-in-law. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
We don't get to talk about this interesting stuff too often. That we're kind of breaking into that, you know? What was the last episode you did? Oh, that was the Manson stuff, right?
Yeah.
So we dip our toes in. We slowly inch our way into that genre too. Hey, how do you do there? You need a couple of spooky ghost boys to rain on your parade or whatever? It's fine. Whatever works, guys.
Yeah. We may get there might be some controversy involved here. Hopefully not with our people, but...
What do you mean, our people? No, it's
like
fine.
our loyal listeners probably don't mind, but...
Yeah, they're probably fine by now.
We're going to talk about the Oklahoma City bombing, and an informant named Carol Howe, who was, according to... Well, she actually was a debutante back in the day.
Oh.
Her father worked for an oil company, so they had money.
That must be nice.
And then, for some reason, she's decided to get a big-ass tattoo of a swastika and join a group of white supremacists.
And the original Kanye? No.
Early version. Before they were allowed to be black. Kanye.
I'm aware that Kanye is black, yes.
He doesn't sound like it, but he is.
The man is still a musical genius. We can set aside his swastika stuff for a few minutes. It's fine.
I mean, you can say somebody's good at music, but
I don't have to hang out with him, you know, even though I probably would.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, I know. Well, I know you wouldn't. I live life a little more dangerous.
I don't like to be seen with idiots.
What are you talking about, Christian? We've been doing a show for 5 years. All right.
Well, obviously, I must not think you're an idiot. Kanye, on the other hand.
Let's be honest. This ain't the Kanye episode, but what it is yet. But what it is a great time for you to follow us on social media at Freaky Deaky Pod, wherever you are at. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube. Those numbers have been trickling down a little bit. It's a little dead in the summer, so now's your chance to get in there. We've got a couple of shows that are going to be debuting once again, or coming back, I should say. One's debuting, one's coming back in the fall, so buckle up for all of that. Join the Facebook group. Tell us your stories. Share some thoughts. You can talk about beans or Creed, whatever's going off on the Facebook group right now. I'm sure it's just as weird as you can possibly imagine. And I believe that's pretty much it. You got sticker packs. We got hot sauce, or as we call it here, sauce squatch, available, as well as some new merch designs at the merch store, which you can find at the Freaky Deaky at thefreakydeaky.com. So go ahead and support the show, become a producer. Shout out to Marlene. I did not have a chance to say this. I keep forgetting because your boy is forgetful. Marlene is also a producer of the show now. So she is probably an OG if I really sit and think about it. It's been a long time she's been hanging out with us. And we thank you for your listenership and your support, and welcome. Welcome, producer Marlene. You too can be a producer. Go ahead and support the show. You can do that on the website as well. Everything you could possibly ever desire is available on the website. Go to thefreakydeaky.com. Tell your parents, steal their credit card, order everything. And if someone does that, I'm going to feel so bad, so please don't do that. I'm just kidding. Obviously, I'll give you Christian's credit card number. You can buy it all with that.
Good luck.
Good luck. Christian, I'm going to let you take it away as I hit this pen for the first time in what feels like 16 months of recording.
I'm sorry, man.
So if it gets a little weird on this side of the room, you know where to direct your absolute disgusting 1-star reviews, you bastards.
I feel like this episode we're going to get weird, so don't be all offended if we have a laugh or two in here.
Yeah.
It's a dark subject. We're not going to bring light to it, but we might bring some humor with us.
Yeah, that's kind of the show. If you don't understand the show at this point, or if you're a new listener and you're like, oh, I can't wait to get into this serious episode, then you're in the wrong spot, my friend, all right? This ain't that.
Before I get into it, I feel like I should throw a little bit of credit out to one of my favorite writers, John Ronson.
I thought it was going to be me, but all right, it's fine.
I don't know how to respond now. You caught me off guard, but he's one of my favorite writers. He touched on the subject that we're going to talk about, who I'd heard about for years, but I'd never looked into. So I decided to look into her, and I thought it would be a fascinating conversation.
That's what we're here for, Christian.
So we're going to be talking about Carol Elizabeth Howe. She was a beauty queen, neo-Nazi, federal informant, whistleblower, and now she's a white sheet-wearing ghost. Someone's got to do it. So she lived in a white supremacist compound deep in the Oklahoma Hills, and then she was part of the courtroom drama that took place during the Oklahoma City bombing trials. And a fire took her life in 2025, January of this year, if I remember right.
Huh.
May have been accidental, but there's some questions behind it.
Now, with the controversy that you're referring to, is it the fact that she's a white supremacist? Is that the controversy?
Well, there's going to be a lot of anti-government issues going on here, because I'm going to touch on some of the inspirations for the Oklahoma City bombing.
Not very controversial, for the record.
Why is it not?
Government issues? Yeah, everyone hates the government.
Everybody's got their view on it. It's obviously not the mainstream, but...
And this is also
it kind
older.
of is the mainstream now, but the story is a little bit older.
Just deal with it, guys. If something upsets you, just check out, you know?
I don't know if...
I think you're very milquetoast when you think things are controversial. And so when you say that, I'm like, is it really going to be controversial, or is it something that you think people might take wrong?
Controversial might be the wrong word, but there are a lot of...
White hoods.
There's a lot of issues here that led up to Oklahoma City.
Gotcha.
And it'll make more sense as we get into the inspirations of Timothy McVeigh's bombing. Feel free when I say, but a traumatic assault in 1993 when Howe was attacked. A black. Exactly.
Didn't have to finish your sentence. I know there's going to be a black.
All right. We ready?
I believe so.
All right. Carol Howe was born less than 2 weeks after me, August 31st, 1970.
1784? Oh.
She was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Her father, Bob Howe, was a wealthy businessman. He was a CEO of Mapco Inc., which is an oil company, or was an oil company. I don't know if they still are. A text.
Classic.
Yeah.
Tell your groupies that you're recording, Christian.
Her mother, Aubyn, kind of a cool name.
Aubyn?
Aubyn. Aubyn. I don't know if it's cool, but it's just, I like it. She was a philanthropist. So Carol went to private school, debutante balls. She was an honors student. And you'd never guess she'd end up a black. Not yet.
Oh, oops. Sorry, everyone. She didn't tattoo a black.
You'd never get, we couldn't see it if she did.
Wow. Racist. Christian.
Please don't put that in.
No.
That's for your internet.
That's what I'm talking about, milquetoast. All right. If I can do it and I'm pasty white, that's the fun of the show, is that we're not racists, Christian. It's fine to joke around.
You'd never guess she'd end up a tattooed neo-Nazi living in a white separatist compound. But a traumatic assault in 1993 when Howe was attacked by a group of African-American men left her physically and emotionally scarred. A black.
Is that where you wanted me to put it?
No.
You were looking at me like, I was like, I don't understand.
I wanted you to put it like just randomly before that.
Gotcha. I miffed that one.
You're at that stage already.
No, I've only had one hit of this thing. I'll get there in time.
I'm going to say it this way. Her supposed anger found a target. And with black. Yeah, okay.
There you go.
Within months, she'd gone full extremist. Now, I want to talk really quickly before I go on. This attack did not happen the way she described it once she got to her new people. Beat it out of them. She jumped off a rock and broke her heels.
Now, that doesn't sound like assault.
Yeah, there's
When I really sit down and think about it.
right. But that was the story that helped get her street cred where she was going, I guess. So once she got her swastika tattoo, she took up with Dennis Mahone, a former KKK Grand Dragon.
A Grand Dragon. See, look, honestly, the KKK has the dumbest fucking names of all time.
I know.
What are you? Now, I'm me? Well, I'm the Grand Dragon, of course. And you can tell these are a bunch of nerds. Straight up, through and through.
I don't even think they're nerds. I just think they're people that's like, oh, Dracula had a dragon.
Dracula had a dragon?
Well, the family. So the original Vlad Van Tepes, his emblem was a dragon.
Wow.
Dragons are cool in
Way too
Lord of the
historical.
Rings. Yeah. So anyway, by 1994, she was embedded in the National Socialist Alliance and living part-time in a fortified compound known as Elohim City. Elohim City wasn't just off the grid, it was anti-grid. An armed compound in Adair County, Oklahoma. It followed Christian identity teachings, rejected the federal government, and embraced apocalypse.
Hell yeah.
Children trained with rifles, residents stockpiled explosives, and at the center of it all was a guy named Andreas Strassmeyer, or Andy the German.
Andy the German.
Yeah. He's a former German military officer and head of security at the compound, which is, as I'm going through the story, I'm like, it's kind of funny that a former German military guy ends up with these white supremacists.
Does check out. Yeah.
And at some point, I think we might go down the Andreas Strassmeyer, road and see a little bit more about him, but we'll see. If people like this sort of subject, we can get more into it later.
Oh, yeah.
He ran paramilitary drills, taught explosives, and according to Carol Howe, talked openly about attacking the U.S. government. And that's when something unexpected happened. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms recruited Carol Howe.
Not the ATF.
So, since we're going to talk about since the ATF just came up, I'm going to add a little bit of context to this. So we're going to step away from Carol Howe for a minute. And we're going to talk about a couple of other things related to the story. The first is going to be Ruby Ridge. I feel like you've heard of it. Do you know much about it?
I'm familiar with the basics, the bones.
Okay. So, for those that aren't, because we've had a lot of things happened in the world since then.
Wait, when was that? What year was that?
92, I believe it was. I feel like it was 92 is when it's, yeah,
Okay.
92. Is that thunder?
It's either that or the missiles are hitting.
Maybe.
And I'm not sure I'm ready for that.
I had a lot of water at my house.
Wasn't it just sunny outside? How long have we been in here?
So in 1992, and I believe it was August, a man named Randy Weaver, who was a former Green Beret, is living in northern Idaho with his wife Vicky and their 4 kids, also with a family friend. His name was Kevin Harris. So it was a remote cabin up in the hills, kind of secluded. They're off the grid, deeply religious, and with views leaning toward white separatism, but not outright militancy. They kind of just want to be left alone and stay away from the government because the government, they're part of that group of people that felt the government was coming after them in the early 90s.
Well, it is the government, so that's understandable.
Well, in this case, he was right. And the reason he was right is because they based the government, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, ATF, entrapped him. So he's not anything big. He's not like a leader of some group. He's just, but they're trying to crack down on these white nationalist movements at the time. So they sent an informant posing as a friend to pressure Weaver and selling him some sawed-off shotguns.
Hell yeah.
Which, when they're sawed off, they're illegal, of course.
If you're a narc.
This guy was. That's the whole point.
Damn it.
Never trust a narc.
That's true.
So Weaver, who needed the money, decides he's going to sell 2 shotguns to the informant. But he kind of smells the setup.
They always did back then.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, they arrest him, but he doesn't become an informant. They want him to become an informant, basically, and he's like, no.
He's like, no, bro.
I ain't no snitch.
But he was.
So that was his friend.
Oh, okay.
So he skipped his court dates because that's what that group of people felt back then. I mean, and he went to his cabin. So the feds issue a warrant. So we get to August of 1992, when the U.S. Marshals show up, decked out in camouflage, and they sneak onto his property to surveil him. Unfortunately, they're spotted by Weaver's 14-year-old son, Sammy, and his dog, Stryker. A firefight breaks out. The dog's shot dead, and Sammy is shot in the back as he's running away. The rest of the family is staying in their cabin because there's feds all over the place, and they just killed the dog and his 14-year-old son.
Pretty messed up move.
So the FBI takes over, and then a siege follows. And we're going to talk about another siege in a little bit that's just as controversial, but they classify Weaver as a dangerous extremist. They bring in their hostage rescue team and snipers. Rules of engagement are loosened, and shockingly so. Agents are told they can shoot any armed adult on site. No warning needed. Someone's got to do it. So on August 22nd, 1992, an FBI sniper named Lori Hirochi takes a shot at Randy Weaver as he's standing outside of his cabin. The bullet misses Randy, but passes through the door behind him. His wife, Vicky, is holding their 10-month-old baby, Elisheba.
Bless you.
The bullet hits Vicky in the head and kills her instantly and fragments into Kevin Harris's arms. She collapses dead, still cradling the child. So the siege lasts for 11 more days. The Weavers are trapped with Vicky basically in there. Negotiators finally convince Randy to surrender, but the damage is done. So I'm not going to go into everything. That's a whole separate episode about what happened afterwards. But basically,
It's a messed up event,
the ATF screwed up majorly.
which is what they do sometimes, you know?
Well, at that point, I don't think we thought they did, but this was the first instance.
They're like, oh.
But then we go to about a year later, starting in February of 1993, in a dusty compound outside of Waco, Texas.
Uh-oh.
The Branch Davidians, which are considered a religious sect led by 33-year-old David Koresh. And I'm sure a lot of people know this story. I'm not sure.
I didn't know he was only 33.
Interesting age, right?
No, he was younger than me, and he has an entire cult.
We could have a cult if we wanted.
We have nothing close to a cult.
We could.
We have told people for 5 years straight that they're not fans. We're just people that hang out together and talk about ghosts. We don't have fans. We just have listeners that may or may not want to hang out with us someday.
We have a Butterscotch group. We're totally a cult now.
Okay. That's the oldest person thing you could have done was not call it the correct name. And you did it just without hesitation. You called it the Butterscotch group. Wow. Christian, I swear to God.
It's the Butterscotch gang, but it's a group.
Wow.
The gang's a group.
Anyone refers to it as the Butterscotch group again, you're out. All right? Everyone is out. We will respect the Butterscotch gang.
So anyway.
Just a random rampage for no reason or for every reason. Everyone knows me. It's fine.
Yeah. Everybody knows that the Branch Davidians were apocalyptic. They stockpiled weapons and they preached about the end times, which is the same thing as apocalyptic in my eyes. The ATF thinks they're dangerous. The ATF also thinks they have a lot of illegal firearms and explosives, which sounds similar to the earlier story on Randy Weaver.
Yellow cake uranium, you say, huh?
No, that's Iraq.
Oh.
And Colin Powell.
I was trying to hint, nice little hint, foreshadowing.
Oh, the near future, if it at all. I mean, we made it, who knows by the time this comes out.
Oh, no, it's foreshadowing back then of what would happen in Iraq.
I understood that.
And then you were saying we're not sure what's going to happen by the time this comes out.
Because we got more nuclear stuff going on.
Yeah, but it's, it's a Thursday, so of course we do. There's every time.
So, do you ever hear about how Koresh got tipped off that the ATF was coming? Bad science. Close. The ATF was trying to find the compound, and there was a guy delivering mail, and they're like, where is this compound? And the guy told him.
So, it's right there.
And then he called up, because he was a Branch Davidian working for the Postal Service, and told him that they were on the way.
Wow. Smart.
So I'm sure everybody's seen the videos. I'm not going to go.
He's not going to walk you frame by frame. You guys know what death looks like.
Yeah. So at this point, we've just had Ruby Ridge and then followed very quickly. Also, I believe Janet Reno was involved in both, the Attorney General at the time. So it looks like to this group of people, I can see what they're nervous about. They were already nervous about the government because the government's the government. They went a little extreme back then with their views, but
they were probably just hungry, guys. It happens, So
anyway, at this point, Waco becomes a battle cry. Militia groups start to explode in number, recruiting thousands who see the government as the enemies. Gun shows buzz with anti-federal rhetoric, and Timothy McVeigh is at some of them gun shows. He's glued to the coverage. He visits Waco during the siege to hand out anti-government flyers. For him, Waco isn't just a failure, it's a betrayal. 2 years later, on April 19, 1995, he'll choose the date deliberately. He decided to bombed the Alfred P. Mora Federal Building in Oklahoma City, killing 168 people. And getting back, as far as the Waco, there's some great documentaries out there. Go watch them.
Don't tell me what to do.
Even if you're like, here's the thing. I didn't have the same views on some of this stuff until I watched one of these documentaries and I saw how bad the ATF and everybody involved in the Waco siege were. Just the initial raid, rolling up on a compound like they did, and then just basically being held off and having many ATF agents killed. And then later on, it's like, we're going to get revenge and just burn the place down with women and children inside.
As you do back then when you're assholes, turns out. Yep. Who did the documentary recently? Was that Netflix?
Yeah, there is one on Netflix.
That was really good. And then wasn't there also a show with the dude from Friday Night Lights?
I believe
or
so.
Is that the same thing?
I don't think I've seen that one, but I heard about it when I was researching this.
I remember watching both of those, and both of those were really good.
I saw an older one, probably it's 10 years old or more. It was just it just was evil, what the government did at that time.
So, well, they have been known to do such things.
Which, I'm sitting here, I'd say the same thing about Ruby Ridge.
Well, yeah.
I may not have been a friend of Randy Weaver or somebody he would even like to talk to, but that they murdered his son.
Yeah.
And then they upped the rules of engagement to the point where it's like they murdered his wife. Things went quiet for a while because then we had 9/11, bunch of wars.
Was that quiet?
It just took at that point, terrorism went more to Islamic terrorism. We forgot about the domestic stuff. But this was a point that these people became a little bit more powerful, a little bit more radicalized. And maybe they're still out there willing to do some of this stuff at this point.
There's plenty of sleepers in the country at the moment, Christian. Anything's possible. But then again, at this point in time, it's like, even if there's like a terror attack or something, you're like, okay, so, but did we do it? Was it us?
Yeah.
Was it us again? Did we do that?
Okay, so now we've talked about that a little bit about the Oklahoma City bombing.
We have.
Which, sorry, I was tangled up in a cord.
That happens.
I think we can get back a little bit to Carol Howe and her interesting spot in this whole story.
I like how you switched between devices and between story segments.
Because then I didn't have to search. So I brought up that one part because I put together this and I was like, it's still like I thought it had that.
Yeah.
And it didn't. So
on the fly. The people didn't even notice.
Plus, I really wanted to add the Ruby Ridge and Waco in there because just the way it went down, it offends me. I'm not a person that thinks white separatists are cool.
That's not what you were saying yesterday, dude. What the?
But I mean, I think it's like any group of people. I don't want to be around the general population. I think that's just stupid, but whatever. Yeah. I also understand how this could trigger an additional level of paranoia at the time and just take it up a notch.
To an extent, sure.
That doesn't justify anything anybody does.
Yeah.
But, the government had a hand in it too. Not that kind of hand. Not the government did it. The government started this. So anyway.
You got to open your mind a little bit on that stuff, Christian. There's plenty of evidence out there.
That what?
That the government starts all kinds of crap.
Of course there is.
Like even domestic,
I mean, I don't know about domestic all the time.
I think we all do.
I think I think that they're not above it.
Yeah, they're inside of it.
Yeah. Also, though, I think it's too easy to say the government is doing all this stuff all the time.
A lot of stuff. Yes. I'm saying there's certain things where you look at it and you're like, ooh, well, that's not good.
Yeah. I'll point that out, but I'm not going to be like, well, the government's coming for my guns kind of crap.
Yeah. They took our jabs.
Yeah. I'm not. They ain't calling me about anything. Anyway, from late 1994 to March 1995, Howe filled dozens of reports. Where did I skip part of that?
I don't know. That's something only you could tell me.
Okay, no, I didn't. She's working for the ATF. Carol Howe's working for the ATF from late 1994 to March 1995. She filed dozens of reports, and she told her ATF handler Angela Finley Graham, that residents of Elohim City were planning to bomb a federal building. She even named the Alfred P. Murrah building in Oklahoma City. And if I remember right, the reason she named that building is because she had heard there was some surveillance going on. She didn't really hear the plans at that point, but they were surveilling it.
Interesting.
She also claimed, it's also like later on when we get into post 9/11 and we find out all the stories. I mean, we find out the terrorists from those groups were doing the same types of things.
Yeah. Post 9/11. Very different from Post Malone.
Very different. She claimed Andreas Strassmeyer and Dennis Mahone had scoped out the building. She also reported training and exercises involving explosives, and she swore she saw Timothy McVeigh.
But did she...
at Elohim City in July of 1994. Go ahead.
But did she pinky swear? Or
she, for some reason, and maybe this would have helped the ATF in both Ruby Ridge and Waco, maybe there should have been some pinky swearing involved.
I swear, but do you pinky swear? All right, you're not going to get me again with this shit.
If they would have had that post, the ATF would have had that post office guy.
Oh.
Not post 9/11, sorry.
Post-Malone.
Too many post. If they would have had him pinky swear, maybe he wouldn't have ratted him out.
Yeah, but well, I did make an oath. So, okay, what the hell is going on outside?
I'm pretty sure that's thunder.
No. It's fine. Never mind. Continue.
The ATF had photographic evidence, audio recordings, diagrams, polygraph test, and then they dropped her. March of 1995, citing her mental instability. 3 weeks later, the Murrah building was gone. And I think I might have mentioned it, but the Oklahoma City bombing killed 168 people, 19 children. 19 were children in the building's daycare. And also, let me warn you, if you do watch that Netflix show, that part is extremely emotional.
You're going to be very sad.
Yeah, it was rough.
Mm-hmm.
So within days, Carol Howe was on the phone with her old ATF contact saying, "I told you this was coming." This is ridiculous, but kind of funny when you think of the ATF. It fits this. The ATF reactivated Howe for 3 days. She returned to Elohim City, but the residents at that point already knew she was an informant.
It's like, hey, guys.
So the ATF's like, please go back in there. But they know.
Yeah.
Go back in there. So she got banished from there. She would later testify at Terry Nichols' federal trial. And Terry Nichols, one of the conspirators with Timothy McVeigh, for those that don't remember, she again said that she'd seen McVeigh at Elohim City and that the bombing was no solo job, which I'm sure a lot of people and even some of our listeners could chime in with their beliefs on that.
Oh, the bombing?
Yeah.
It was a solo job, the government.
Well,
No, not that one. Well, maybe that one. I don't know.
I'm going to step away from this and I'm going to tell a little Waco story real quick.
Oh, God, why are you trying to
No,
bum
not
us
Waco.
out?
Not Waco. Oklahoma City.
Oh.
So right after that happened, you remember, you were young, but they had the flyer of the two suspects.
I've probably seen the flyer, yeah.
One looked just like Timothy McVeigh, and a lot of other people thought the other guy looked Middle Eastern. I walk in.
Racist.
I'm coaching hockey at the time. I coach an under 18 team. I walk into the locker room one time. This is like within a week or two after it happened, I think, maybe not more than a month. And there's that poster in the locker room.
And they said it looks like you?
No, and it has Dean and Dave written on it. And they were both sitting under the poster. They're friends on my hockey team. Spot on.
Really?
For that poster.
Like, well, hold on just a second, guys. I gotta make a call outside.
And, teenagers, they put it up there because everybody on the team thought that they looked like the poster.
But did you guys win a lot?
We did okay.
Okay.
We did good on that team.
That's what everyone was wondering.
I almost didn't say their names, but Dean unfortunately passed away young.
That's too bad.
And Dave became a firefighter. Great guys, though. Great kids to coach. So anyway, back to the story. The government painted her as unstable and that her reports were exaggerated and unreliable.
Yeah.
Others weren't so sure. Oklahoma State Rep Charles Key launched his own investigation, and he said Howe's warnings could have stopped the bombing. But no charges were brought against anyone from Elohim City, not even Strassmeyer. And I feel like I mentioned it last week in last week's episode. Carol Howe, before the Oklahoma City bombing, when she got with Dennis Mahone had a telephone, like a 1-800 number that was called Dial a Racist.
Just to hear the N-word said aloud or what?
No,
Oh.
You would call them up and they'd give you their racist propaganda, their white supremacist propaganda. There would be a new recording every day. So you just called up and got an answering machine. So Carol dated this guy. There's even recordings of her because she would put the message, or she would voice the message on the machine from time to time. And it's just hilarious that some Bubba guy is going to be like, I don't like them blacks. I'm going to call me dial a racist today.
It's really funny. You just think about something like do, 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 and then all you pick up the phone, all you hear is
a black.
You're like, wow, okay, thank you. I needed that. Just hang up. What a strange, but I mean, if you think about the marketing on this, I'm not saying I'm for it. I'm saying it's very,
it was ahead of its time.
Yeah, that's the whole reason it was successful at all, probably.
Yeah.
Right. Marketing, I'm telling you, marketing is the root of all evil. Like, everyone fights me on this, but I think marketing is the absolute purest of evil.
You know who the evil antichrist is when it comes to marketing, right? Edward Bernays. Look him up.
That name actually sounds really familiar.
I think we've mentioned him here
Yeah,
before.
we probably have.
He was very early on, had understood what marketing did.
Yeah.
So
I've said it many a time on this podcast. I think about that way too often. It's fine. Let's continue. Let's get back to you making us sad about stuff, Christian.
So I'm going to mention some testimony from at the Terry Nichols trial, because she's a confidential informant. So it's hard to get access to some of the things she said. That stuff's still covered up. So take that as you will. She testified that she saw Timothy McVeigh at Elohim City. She was alongside Andreas Karl Strassmeyer and Peter Ward. She claimed to have overheard discussions about a bombing plot involving Dennis Mahone, who was, of course, a neo-Nazi, former Ku Klux Klan member.
Also, little known fact about him was he would end up being the father of Kansas City Chiefs Patrick Mahone.
It's spelled differently, but they had to do that. He spells it the slave way.
Mahomes.
Yeah.
Mahomies. Yeah, I get it.
That's not what. No, you don't. A black
Christian. I think I get it. Yeah.
White people always think they get it.
I do need some white people. Guys, I really need some white people sound bites. I need Christian to be hella racist against the whites just for once.
That's not going to happen.
Just so I can clip it. Come on, man. It's got to be fair.
No, man, I don't knock my heritage. So she claimed to have overheard. Oh, I already said that. She identified John Doe 1 and 2 as Pete and Tony Ward, residents of Elohim City, but initially did not connect them directly to Timothy McVeigh in her early reports. She also stated she recognized McVeigh from a Ku Klux Klan rally after being shown a videotape by ATF agents post-bombing, which, to me, if you're going to be like, okay, look at this videotape. You know who Timothy McVeigh is? Do you recognize him now?
Yes.
And side note, I find it crazy that they caught Timothy McVeigh so quickly and so weirdly by just pulling him over.
Would you say suspiciously crazy?
I've always thought it was suspiciously, but there were people that mentioned his name. As I learned recently, there were people that mentioned his name pretty quickly. And he was sitting in jail for a couple of days, and then all of a sudden somebody's like, we got Timothy McVeigh in jail.
Like, we did it, everyone. Good job. A team effort.
Yeah. In December 1996, Carol Howe and her fiance, James Veefhouse, which is funny because it's spelled with a V, and that sounds like a very German name.
Very German.
But I think he Americanized it so they would say it right, because a W in German is V, the V sound.
Veefhouse.
So they were arrested. Their Tulsa home had bomb-making materials, weapons, and a racist voicemail line threatening more attacks. So this is after this totally different guy after the bombing.
Yeah.
She had disappeared for a while. Nobody knew where she was at, including the ATF. She went underground after that, probably because she was worried that the people she'd been around with might think she'd ratted, which she did. So the feds thought this was proof Howe had snapped. She claimed it was all a cover, that the ATF told her to stay deep in the movement. I have a really good box. She was beautiful.
Wow. Okay, that correlates, I guess. Sure, why not? Yeah. Interesting take.
I don't know. That I just felt I needed to lighten the mood.
Yeah, it's been a pretty heavy episode so far, Christian.
Here's the funny thing about that, though. The ATF didn't send her back in, according to records.
She was just I'm going back
she
in.
was just there. Calm down.
Chill, bro, chill.
She was just there.
Yeah.
When they were looking into this other guy, she walked up to this house because the feds knew that this guy was maybe making bombs or had the materials. And she's walking into the house with like guns and bombs, making material.
Classic.
So they grabbed her, and it's Carol Howe, the former informant that went missing. And she's like, I was staying undercover.
Shit, I don't have any bomb making materials. I'm just
Right.
trying to make my flight, damn it.
So her 1997 trial was a circus, and the
Really?
jury believed her. She
Wow.
was acquitted on all charges, and Vipe House got 38 months.
That's like a oddly specific amount, like 3 years and 2 more months.
It's probably the way they do those charges are so weird and so ridiculous. And
You know what?
pretty
Add
corrupt.
18 more minutes to a sentence. You don't get to talk to me like that.
Yeah, they're
I'm a
like,
judge. I'm in a flowy robe.
which for-profit prison can we send him to so our rich people can get their money?
Whichever one pays me the most is the obvious answer there,
Exactly.
Christian. Hate to explain it to everyone, but
After the trial, she changed her name to Sarah Elizabeth Collins and moved to Sparta, Tennessee. She became a recluse, and in 2023, journalist John Ronson tracked her down in his podcast, and it was in his podcast, The Debutante. He described her as paranoid, haunted, and convinced the ATF used her. She also believes she could have stopped the bombing, which I kind of agree that the ATF used her and didn't use her well.
that is also a theme with government. Okay.
Now we get to the fire. January 6, 2025, a fire consumed a house in rural Tennessee. Inside, the remains of Carol Howe. The cause, which is still unknown, took her life. That's why I made that very bad. She's a white sheet wearing ghost now. Joke earlier.
Now, how old was she at the time?
At the time this all happened,
At the time of her death.
she would have been same age as me,
Oh,
54.
that's right. Yeah, you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
So why would you choose to go out in a house fire? You know, like why is suicide even on the table?
I think
for
there
that?
would. I think the theory was there was a gas leak, but also that's kind of suspicious, especially when you get an informant involved, an informant that informed against a group of people that probably are still out there. These white separatists, white supremacists, I don't know what you want to call them, neo-Nazis.
Yeah. There's an interesting network of racists.
Yeah. Turner Diary reading fools.
Wow. Turner, you say, huh?
Yeah. Well, that is the white side of my family. A black. So follow Jesus. When they on the Debutante episodes, John Ronson spoke to Andreas Strassmeyer, who's now living in Berlin, having a good life. When he asked Strassmeyer about her death, and he responded, karma, or somebody covering their tracks. So Carol Howe is a footnote to one of America's darkest days, but her story won't stay buried. A Columbia Pictures film is in development. Showtime dramatized her in Waco, the aftermath. And this July, the book Blowback promises revelations from a CIA source about Strassmeyer's alleged intel ties.
Ooh.
So, was she telling the truth, or was she used and discarded by the government, or is she just some crazy person?
Now there's plenty of those, so that is always up there. I don't know, Christian, you tell me.
I think there's a little bit of all of that in there. What got me early on in the story was that big ass swastika tattoo that came out of nowhere. John Ronson, I feel like I should mention this, but in the show, he made some comparisons, if I can find them really quick. And I think this is a little bit reachy, but he thinks that the whole archaic world of, he's gone from British debutante balls, which I didn't think were a thing. Maybe it's just mentioned.
Debutante balls?
Maybe it's just because it's debutante balls and he's British that it mentioned British, because I've always felt debutantes were a United States thing. He calls it a symbol of aristocracy and exclusivity, and has surprising dark ties to modern white supremacist movements. And he says that it uncovers how the nostalgia for rigid class hierarchies central to the debutante culture aligns with white supremacist fantasies of racial purity and tradition. And that's just like one-liners mentioning the stuff. There's a lot more to it. It was a great show. And I've never ever heard of a debutante being in these kind of groups before, so I'm not sure if there is a connection or a correlation or anything like that to it. But
It's hard to know.
like a lot of these people feel like they've been marginalized by this modern world, which is overtaking all of us.
Yeah, it comes for all of us at some point. Yeah, that's
and
inescapable.
Some of us choose hate or isolation.
Mm-hmm. And choosy moms
Jello, is that what it is? Or
choose Jeff.
oh Jeff,
man.
I couldn't remember. I went with Bill Cosby.
I couldn't get through that. I couldn't. It hit me too hard. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry for the lack of professionalism. Choosy moms choose Jeff.
I'm pretty much done continuing.
Yeah. It's an interesting story.
I mean, because
When did you say this series is coming out? Is it a series?
the debutante,
Yeah.
that's already out.
Is it?
Unfortunately,
Didn't you say something's coming like a month from now?
there's a book.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Might be worth picking up.
There's a future movie that I think is going to take her perspective, if it ever is released, Carol Howe's perspective. And then there's the book that's supposed to have a lot of conspiracy involvement in it. So I'll probably check it out.
Hmm.
If the author of that book would like to come on the show, feel free.
Is that John Bon Jovi or whoever you said?
No, but he is wanted dead or alive.
John Ronson?
No, the book that's coming out here. I can't remember the name off the top of my head.
He's wanted?
Stop.
No, I'm trying to make sense of it all, Christian.
Any particular thoughts? I mean,
It's a crazy story.
it is a crazy story. I'd love to come back to some other connections to it if our listeners like this kind of thing, because there's a lot more weird stuff. And I know we stay away from some of the crazy conspiracy stuff.
Yeah.
It gets people riled up. But this one is more like there was a conspiracy there.
Yeah.
Or a big mistake that made it look like a conspiracy. Well, there
I
were
can see
multiple
that.
mistakes. One was Ruby Ridge. The other was Waco. And then,
Not a great look, though, you know?
and according to Carol Howe, a third one was them not listening to her when she was reporting information back to them.
She's like, what? This woman thinks she knows what's up? Yeah, get out of here. Go fetch my coffee.
Yeah. And there's been a lot of people since then that kind of downplay the information she provided. I think one person, it might have been her handler, said that she'd given 300 reports and 3 of them were correct.
300, that's a like 0.01% accuracy. What is that?
It's pretty bad.
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
So I don't know, man. A pretty blonde, all with it from a successful family, gets a Nazi tattoo, swastika, and goes and joins these separatist people and white supremacists, and it's
a tale as old as time, really.
actually from right there. It seemed fishy. Like she either had some kind of just real disconnect or rebellion against her upbringing, or maybe she was
a strange story. Or maybe she just really hated the blacks. She didn't think about that.
Well, according to her story about being attacked by them and breaking her heels.
Yeah.
But the person that was with her at the time said no, she jumped off a rock. You know, it was probably a tall rock, but also you're kind of weak if you break both your heels.
You're
jumping
definitely
off
not
a rock.
solid as a rock. If you
Definitely not.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. What a strange.
But
Wait. So let me get this straight. Or I guess maybe she got battered more than just breaking her heel or whatever, jumping off the rock.
2 heels.
2 heels.
Broke both of her heels.
But
So
she
first-
also got. Because I'm wondering why would she say they assaulted me, like they beat me down, and all she had was broken heels?
well, probably by time she's telling people about this, it's obvious she broke her feet. But
She's like, I don't know what's up with these black folks, but they sure love beating feet. You know, like
No.
I'm just saying she got to look more beat up. Otherwise, it's not convincing that you even got assaulted at all. Like, who would just attack your feet?
I think she used this as an excuse to get into these groups. Excuse me, to get into Elohim City or to be a part of Dial a Racist phone network. Because obviously that was a big thing. But she brought, with her looks, she helped
Crafty.
manipulate the men and bring some.
Let's be honest, it doesn't take much.
Yeah.
If you're a pretty girl, you're just like, what? What do you need?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Join the Raciest? Yeah. You want me to get tattooed? Who do you want me to shoot?
A gigantic swastika? You want that right on my chest? Got it.
Whatever for you, Carol.
Carol? I don't know. That doesn't sound like a... Well, I'm not going to get it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Carol. I know you're probably listening.
No. Well, if she's listening from the great beyond because she died.
I'm talking about if we have a listener named Carol.
Oh, yeah.
It's weird that you think our listeners named Carol should all die. But
that's not quite what I said. That sounds like something the ATF would say to you.
Yeah. Did you guys hear that? This guy's a racist. And he's got somebody as Carol. Whoever that is. Yeah. Well, good story, Christian. Well done. I'm sure the folks here enjoy it. People really do enjoy your episodes, Christian. I feel bad for not releasing them as often. I'll just write a bunch and be like, I'll just hammer through these. And mainly, well, there's reasons. I'm not going to get into it, but yeah, they're fun. They're interesting stories. This one, and maybe it's because it happened when I was so young, but I'd never even heard of this woman.
I'd been hearing about her for years, but didn't know much about her.
Yeah.
Like I'd heard she was
Timothy McVeigh thing. That was it,
And that was from day one. I mean, nobody has ever completely believed that story. Even people that don't get into all the crazy conspiracies. It's just too weird. The whole thing is weird. I'm sure he was involved, but including like one of the early rumors I heard, and I don't know, I probably heard this in the late 90s, early 2000, but
can't trust it then. You can't trust your memories.
One of the things they said about Terry Nichols is that he went to the Philippines, and before he went to the Philippines, their bombs didn't work, their fertilizer bomb. When he got back, they did. And in the Philippines at that time was an Al-Qaeda group of terrorists.
Al-Qaeda, you say, huh?
Yeah.
I've heard that before.
Right. So at this time, we hadn't really heard too much about them, but they were on their way.
Yeah.
So I don't think any of that was ever confirmed, but also, like, well, I don't feel like Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols were necessarily white supremacists. I just think because of the culture they were in or the beliefs they had, they ended up at a lot of gun shows with these people.
That does happen.
And there is a documented phone call from Timothy McVeigh to the compound, the Elohim City compound, asking for Andreas Strassmeyer, even though Andreas Strassmeyer says he never met him.
How can you spell this city name for me?
Yes, Elohim.
Elohim?
Yeah.
Okay. I was trying to figure out, like, are you saying Elohim?
Yeah, it's almost biblical sounding.
Well, it is. It's an angel.
Yeah, but if white supremacists are using that, doesn't count.
Yeah. Go back to dragons, you bastards.
Yeah. Stop appropriating other people's cultures.
Yeah, how dare you on this, the day of our Lord.
I mean, you guys, they already have a culture. It's white sheets and burning crosses. Why did they need anything else?
Yeah, it's very iconic, okay? Very recognizable from anywhere. Whatever your perspective is, you recognize that brand.
Yeah.
Okay? Don't change a thing.
You know, the best Ku Klux Klan scene ever is from Django Unchained.
That is true. Great stuff in that movie.
When they're arguing over their hoods. I'm sorry. Not funny. But
now, if you would rank your top 10 Ku Klux Klan scenes, Christian, what would they be?
That would be 1 from 10. 1 to 10 right there.
I was trying to trap you into admitting to watching a ton of Ku Klux Klan videos. Ku Klux? Is it Ku? Ku Klux Klan. Okay, guys, figure it out. 3Ks? Come on, really? Okay. It's cool. So anywho, what do you guys think? Are you racist? No, it's fine. We don't have any racists on this show, thankfully.
We might.
On this show?
Not right here.
Oh, okay. Oh, you mean listeners?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're bound to have a couple listeners that are racists. And you guys, you know who you are out there, okay? You don't got to make it public or make a scene. Just don't add us when we disagree with something.
It's fine. If you can be racist, just keep it quiet. Nobody wants to hear that bullshit.
If they can keep it quiet, they're definitely not.
A black
No, it's fine. Goodbye.
Bigfoot is stalking by your window. Dogman is scratching at your door. Ghosties are walking up and down your halls at night, and the Hat Man is coming back for more. Your name is Christian, you love a can of beans, and you're the wettest blanket skeptic this world has ever seen. You're almost always wrong, it's quite an impressive streaky. This song has rambled on too long. Welcome to the Freaky Deaky. Your name is Christian, you're named ironically, because the only belief you have can be found in a can of beans. You're almost never right, and now you get roasted weekly. This song has rambled on too long. Welcome to the Freaky Deaky. Also, ghosts exist, just an FYI. Aliens are feeling blue. The Ouija demon's lonely because they believe in you. In you. In you. They believe in you. Your name is Christian, you love a can of beans, and you're the rightest black-eyed skeptic this world has ever seen. You're almost always wrong, it's quite an impressive streaky. This song has rambled on too long. Welcome to the Freaky Deaky. Your name is Christian, you're named ironically, because the only belief you have can be found in a can of beans. You're almost never right, and now you get roasted weekly. This song has rambled on too long. Welcome to the Freaky Deaky. Also, ghosts exist, just an FYI. Aliens are feeling blue. The Ouija demon's lonely because they believe in you, in you, in you. They believe in you.